So here I am unloading this thing. It's a little precarious, but you see how I'm doing it. Picked it up off the trailer. Had to use the ratchet strap to pull it because it was leaning pretty hard that way. And now, just a matter of dropping it on the ground. And there it is. Unloaded. And now I've got oil that's spilled everywhere that I get to go clean up at some point, but there it is. So I just thought you'd want to see how I've unloaded machines for a while when I can do it this way. This makes it quite a bit easier. I just went around the supports down here. I used these to pick it up when I brought it home, but I didn't have enough travel up. At some point I'd like to build something that will bolt onto these and give me a beam up here higher so I can go all the way to the top up there, because this won't go, but you know, just kind of above your head a little bit, which is great for picking up a vehicle, and it's more than enough, but not quite enough for this. It was just barely enough to get it off the trailer. And the reason I did the ratchet strap is because when I picked it up, the lathe sort of turned this way, and this back corner was still trying to rest on the trailer. What I was worried about is when I tried to pull the trailer out from under it, maybe I could, you know, drag this off or something, because there's a lot of weight there. But I just used the ratchet strap to sort of tilt it back where it was above the trailer instead of trying to sit on the trailer. But there you go. That's how I unloaded it. I'm going to have to do a little bit of work to this thing, but there it is. So now I get to roll it in here. So this seam is just something I take off when I need to, but I've got screws in here. I just take off one side, and there's hinges here right there. So this hinges in. So I usually have to move this and anything in here, and that allows me to roll it in this way. And I've just got a steel plate here with a spacer on the back, and that gives me a kind of a slant in. And so what I'll do is I'll roll it in here, and what I'll probably use is a pallet jack in the front and rollers in the rear that'll allow me to, you know, support the rear end of it, and then just roll it in straight. And once I get it in here, then I'll roll it around. So what I'll do out here is probably come this way, because this head, if I just go straight that way, I'm gonna have to turn it around in there, and I don't have a lot of room. I've got plenty of room out here, so what I'm gonna do is kind of go this way, go that way, and then when I do that, I can just kind of back it, because the head will be facing me, and then I can kind of come in this way and put it right here. So before I do that, I'm going to move this out of the way, move some of this stuff out of the way, move this over into here, move that over somewhere else, probably back over on the other side. And I got to figure out what I'm going to do with all this stuff too. So eventually I've got to find a better way to do this, but it will sit here. And one of the reasons that like this one is catty cornered is you have to be able to get into that door right there. So I've given myself enough room to open it by catty cornering it. The problem is this one's the same way. So your control cabinet, you can't go but so far as close to the wall. So that's one of the reasons I've laid this out. What I would have much rather done is had this thing like in this corner and that pushed up against the wall where this would be open. But what's funny is you know, when I bought this machine, I never saw myself really adding a whole lot more capability. But once I got into CNC stuff with this, it's like, man, I got to have CNC now. So then I bought this machine and I kind of catty-cornered it in. And so now this is the only real place that makes sense, but it really doesn't at the same time. But this is where it'll go for now. I may end up having to move this way. But like I said, what would probably be better if I had another way in. The problem is this is where my door is. So I have to come in this way. So I've got to keep it somewhat open. Now, in all reality, once I bring that in, where can I put another machine? I mean, I really don't have room for another machine unless I put one like right here. And I've actually considered moving this, putting the lathe here because I don't need a high ceiling here and I've got power right there. But, you know, then I could move this back, but then I would still need room behind it for this door to open. So if you look at this door, let's see. I don't have but 4 feet that I could go back and still allow this door to open. Which is not nothing, but it's also not a whole lot. So that kind of, you know, is what it is. But anyway, there you go. Let me close this. So yeah, that's where I'm going to put it. And I'll try to take some pictures or video or whatever of moving this. I know I hardly ever do that. You usually get to see everything when it's already said and done, but it's also a lot of work and I'm sweating and cussing and everything else when I'm trying to move these things sometimes. But yeah, there you go. So it's on the ground, trailer's out the door. That'll finally open my bay back up when I move this thing. I've got some work I've got to do to my vehicle. But after I get that in, let's see, just to give you another update, over here, what I've done here is I bought this. So this is a closed center 12 volt solenoid valve, so in and out for 1 cylinder. It came plugged and it was set up for closed center, and I tried to call the company and they said there is another company that makes an adapter that will make it open center. Open center is where you have power in, this goes to tank. Closed center would be it just dead ends into this valve body and it only runs when you hit this. So it just dead ends here. You put 12 volts here and it's going to come out this way, or whichever one it comes out. This goes to your cylinder. But when neither one of these is receiving pressure, so you don't have this or this activated, it just dead ends into this. And the only way that it would relieve back to the tank would be with this relief valve, which is not good. You don't want it to do that. So an open center is when you've got fluid coming through here, and an open center works when you've got a motor that's running all the time. Closed center would be like the motor would run long enough to do the actuation that you're looking for, and as soon as it's done and you stop applying power here, the motor stops running. So for instance, this would be like a closed center application right here. So your, you know, motor's not running unless of course, that's not the same thing, but you get the idea. The motor will only run when you need hydraulic pressure. This system, the motor's always going to be running, and it always needs to return back to tank. So, I could be wrong, but I bought a power beyond adapter. Generally, what this is for is if you have another valve body, you would run in here, and then your power beyond would run to, say, another valve body down the line. And then that valve body would be what you could use to actuate a different press brake. So I blew air through here and it came out here. So I think what will happen is hydraulic pressure will be going through here. This will just return to tank. This will also return to tank. So I think I could either tee these and then dump them into the tank or something. I don't know exactly. I may run this into a filter housing and then back into the tank so it's filtering as it's running. But eventually I've got to get an adapter. These are 3/8 lines, and if you look up there, you can see right here, that's a big old hose going to that cylinder. So I'm going to have to go tomorrow and get some adapters. What I'm thinking, so this is a 3/8 MPT, which is just what I happen to have. 3/8 MPT to 3/8 JIC. What I'm thinking about doing, if you notice that hole's a little bigger than that hole, and that hole's pretty big. So I'm thinking about going 3/8 MPT to 1/2 inch, and then 1/2 inch from here to my cylinder, just to give it a little more flow or ability to flow. I'm not sure. But what I'm essentially going to try to do, this is 12 volts. That is 110 volts. So I'm basically going to replace everything up here with that. And then I'm going to come into this cabinet and everything will be 12 volts from here out to the control. So 12 volts DC instead of 110 volts AC. AC is a little noisier from what I understand. Can kind of screw with your electronics, but what I'm going to try to do is these two will be able to be actuated, kind of simplifying it to where pump is on, this is returning to tank, 12 volts here, up, 12 volts here, down, or whichever one of these is which. And when I do that, I should be able to actually start using this thing rudimentally. You know, I'm obviously not going to be able to do some things, but I'll be able to do a little bit. Thing's got a leak. Huh. Right there. See? Got a leak coming from somewhere. But anyway, so once I get that running, then all of this is going to come into play. My intention is to use these right here, and I'm going to mount them this way. So they'll be mounted facing this way. Oh, that's rust. Dang it. I need to get some oil on these things. These ride back and forth on them, and so it's going to be mounted like this on either side, and then I'm going to make something that mounts to this and then comes across, so you'll have like a gantry style thing here that goes across, and then another one of these running across this way. And so say this is your cross piece, then you would be able to put your finger on this so it would roll back and forth, and these leads or ball screws here is what's going to move all that stuff around. So that's what all this stuff's for. What I'm going to eventually do is probably for the in and out, which has got to be the most accurate part of this, I'm going to use closed loop steppers going back and forth. And I'm thinking like these two things here are just going to go away. I'm going to unbolt them. These will go away and this will be wide open. And essentially you'll be able to go in and out and up and down. So the piece that I put across here will also be able to ride up and down. And then I'll have the piece across here where you can go left and right. And you'll have one that goes left and right this way in a stationary, and eventually possibly one that can go forward and backwards as well. I'm not sure if I really want to do that yet, because that's, let's see, that's 5 axes, I believe, and that's aggravating. It's going to be a lot of moving parts and stuff, but once I do all of that, I'm going to put a cabinet with all the controls and everything over here. So I'll be able to control everything with that switch there, and that's probably going to be wired into the control cabinet, and I'm going to figure out a way to make that where that's the like the continue or go button or whatever. So when I do a program, or say I'm wanting to bend something, you know, bend one is this position, it'll you know, I'll click that and it'll move, you know, your Z in and your X this way and your X that way, and so on and so forth. And then it'll go to like a pause. I'm not sure exactly how to say that, but in G code you can put a little code in there and it'll just wait. And then when you hit this again, then it would go to the next set of G code, which would be the next bend, which would move all this stuff around again. So anyway, but yeah, that's update on this thing. I do have to buy another VFD to go on here, so I'm going to go ahead and order that probably tonight and get it on the way. But yeah, there you go. So it's down. This is Sunday. I'm actually in my church clothes. But I guess the way I've done stuff forever is I had 15 minutes to spare. So I went ahead and at least got that off the trailer. I've actually got one more piece of equipment that I'm going to try to bring home and show you what it is. And I'm not sure if I'm going to use it or not, but it's got a lot of steel in it that I could use. And we need room at the office for storage and stuff. And I'll use that trailer to go get it probably. So the way this was set up is you had a table changer that bolted in back here. And it had a table that would pick up, slide in, and then the old one would come out and drop down. Or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. But you could swap tables back and forth. It's for production. I'm probably not going to use it, but I had thought about putting it behind this because I've already started sort of taking it apart. But I could put that here. You'd have that, and then maybe the table changer back here, and you could literally drive in this way, loaded one, and pull each one around. But I think what I'm going to do is I may have damaged the there's no table on it now. Now you can't see that, but under here, if you can see that, is the table that goes on top. So that table will have to go on top of this, but I may have bent it. When I was moving it, I had the forks under it, hit a bump, and it just slammed off the forks. The other one's in good shape, so that'll give me another table to fix that problem. And then I'll just make it non-mobile so it won't move around. But anyway, there you go. I'm going to get back and watch a movie or something with my kids. So you guys have a great day. Just another quick update today. Have a nice day.